Three, two, one. You ready? You're listening to the Real Pineapple Podcast Network. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, days and gays. This is the Real Pineapple. This is your humble host, Hunter, here. Hope you're all having a great night, day, weekend, whenever you get a chance to check this out. By the time you listen to this review, or to this interview, the review for Prisoner's Daughter will be live as well. And I am incredibly honored to have the director of said film. You know her from 13, which is, if you have not seen 13, that is a mind-blowing movie. Please watch that. See also Lords of Dogtown. And I am going to ask her about Twilight because I have some Twilight questions as well. Catherine Hardwicke. Catherine, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm really well. Happy Monday. Thank you so much for making the time. I really appreciate it. So I did mention Twilight, and I would have two siblings who would never forgive me if I didn't ask you a few Twilight questions. So I do have a couple here for you. I'm just going to jump in real quick. Why the blue hue? That was something I was always like, I like this look aesthetically, and I actually miss it from the sequel. So yeah, what inspired that as far as for the first film?
I think the cinematographer Elliot Davis and we were trying to really give a special quality to the light. And when you go take your scouting photos and you're in those beautiful forests, up in the Pacific Northwest, you kind of feel that feeling, with the fog and the filtered light. So we were just kind of giving it that sort of magical feeling.
Okay, because it's something that, like, especially in the baseball scene, it really jumps out, which is an amazing scene, by the way. What would you have done? Because I really did miss your depiction of everything. I thought you set a really solid foundation. What would you have done, like, because I think New Moon honestly falls apart, but what would you have done? Is there anything you can think of off the top of your head that you would have done for the franchise moving forward if you had gotten the chance to do the other four films? Or
Well, I did have it in my contract that, if my film worked, that I could do all the others, but I chose not to because, in a way, right at that moment, I felt like I really felt the first book more than the second one and the third one. I felt it was like the birth of a fresh original idea that Stephanie had in a dream. And then after that, I kind of lost the books a little. I lost a little bit of the books in my heart. So, I felt like when I read the first one, I felt like, oh my God, this is like this first time that this girl has really fallen madly and crazy in love. And everybody's had that first time. And I wanted to
absolutely
see, like, what does that feel like? Can I put that in a film and make audiences just be like, almost like swooning, like remembering that moment and just being in that ecstatic state in a film? And that was one of my challenge to myself. I want to create that sense of madly in love the first time. And we don't really have that in the other ones, of course, because,
yeah. So I have to ask, because I think that Twilight has had I will say, a re-examination of it, and I do think that so, like, when Bella gets her ankle broken, I actually screamed in the theater because it caught me so off guard the way you did that shot. I was like, oh my God, like, I was so pleasantly surprised that you actually took it there. I was like, wow, this is really effective. Would you consider coming back, considering I guess they're going to reboot it? Like, and I think a TV format might actually behoove the series better. Would you consider it? Or
Well, I wouldn't be against it because I do love those characters, and so it could be interesting, but then it could be interesting for another director to take it on and explore it in their own way too. So, I'm open either way, support it either way. Yeah.
okay. I do have to ask you about 13 because I remember when I graduated high school back in '05. Oh God, I'm old. When when I remember that was one of those first movies that I was told like you need to watch this just for perspective and just it'll kind of shape how you look at things. And I remember that movie being so groundbreaking and uncomfortable as far as the lens that we look at it and how we sexualize sexualized in general. And there's so much about that movie you can break down. Looking back, it's been 20 years. I mean, is what is the legacy of that film for you as far as looking back on it?
I mean, that film was an incredible experience because look at the actors. They just, Evan Rachel Wood, 14 years old, Nikki, 14 years old, Holly Hunter, they just put their heart into it and you just feel it on the screen. Even when I watch it, years later, I'm like drawn into the emotions that they brought to that movie and their incredible performance. I mean, they all got honored with Spirit Awards and Academy nominations and all that, Golden Globe, deservedly,
Yes, absolutely.
amazing. Like Evan Rachel Wood, she's just had turned 14, and sometimes we had to do 13 scenes in a day because she's underage. We had one take on the scenes, and she's just like incredible in every take and every transformation. So I had my first movie, I had like the dream actors, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I feel like the fact that Nikki Reed was so able to be open and share her life and what she was going through as a co-writer with me and and an actor in it, that gave a lot of girls, women all around the world, felt like this is my story too. They could relate to it. I've had so many people of all ages, women and men, Skrillex, Margot Robbie, people all over the world saying, I felt this was my story, which is great because you need to see yourself like we all talk about now. Are you ever seen? And we're teenagers like that seen before, so we're happy that people felt seen or felt like they could relate to somebody. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I absolutely adore that film. Speaking of films that I really enjoyed, takes us to A Prisoner's Daughter. I think you get, just to be very blunt with you, because that's how I am, I think you get a top five Beckinsale performance of her career out of this. I thought she was incredible in this. And Brian Cox, I mean, fresh off Succession, seeing how he just steps into this role of, a dad with a lot of layers to him. What was it about this project and the script in particular that made you go, oh yeah, I need to direct this?
Well, I just when I read the script, of course, I was drawn in by a person toward the end of their life with a ticking clock, health issue. My father had this passed away from the same situation, same kind of cancer. So I know that when you get that diagnosis, you've got only so many months to live. How do you take is it too late to go back and actually make a reconnection with your daughter, to make a change, to rewrite your history, your legacy? I thought that was pretty great that he actually kept, against all odds, against all of her opposition, he kept trying, and he did this. He physically repaired things, he emotionally repaired things, he taught the kid, he sacrificed himself. It was beautiful. I think all the layers.
Yeah, I think the thing that surprised me in the best way is that there's a scene, and I don't think that we see this enough in film. So I give you a lot of credit for how you shoot the scene in particular, where he just has this very, a man conversation in the film. And that scene in particular, I just sat there and went, wow, you don't normally get an adult being that transparent with a kid. And it was actually something I was taken back by in the best way. Like, talk to me about the importance of that scene in particular and kind of almost getting out of that stigma of kind of lying to kids and kind of protecting them and kind of finding that balance. Because I think you nail it in that scene.
Yeah, that scene is so great. I love that scene. Well, think about it. This man was not a good father figure for a long, long time, and he let his violent impulses take over. And so by the time of being locked up in prison for at least 15, at least 13, 14, 15 years, he's had a lot of time to think about that and become, in a way, a father figure to other people in prison, like you see with his cellmate. He's kind of helped him through the program and stuff. So I thought it was amazing that, he had the clarity and the no bullshit attitude. Yeah, let's tell it. Like, do you want the man version or the kid version?
Yeah, and I love he gives them the options.
So cool. You can have your choice. And of course, the kid picks the man version, and also that's a beautiful scene because Christopher Conver, was 12 years old. He really was courageous in taking on that role and playing with Brian Cox. I mean, you watch him on Succession, most people would be terrified to do a
Oh, I
one
was terrified the whole time.
to do a one-on-one scene with Brian, not just Succession. Look at his other body of work. He's amazing. And so Chris really held his own, in a beautiful way. I thought, he had his own, you felt the strength of that kid, the vulnerability, how much he needed this in his life, a role model, a father figure. It was a beautiful scene.
One thing about your films that I really appreciate, and I think is something that's very understated and just kind of overlooked, are the actual credits. Like I've always loved that about your film, like especially the first shot we see when we see your name. In this film in particular, I really appreciate. Same thing with Twilight. What is it about the actual credits that make you go like, I want to put some effort into this? Because so many times I just see it's like, black screen, get out of here, it's fine. But like it feels like you actually take actual care when it comes to that aspect of the film.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for noticing. Yeah. I mean, I do want you to go out, it's kind of easing you out, like it's it's helping you digest and process, what you've been seeing so you can still be engaged. For example, Twilight, I went to the Hollywood Bowl and heard Radiohead, and I
Not
heard
nice.
that song and I just saw the credits in my in the sky. I guess I saw like I want to keep the credits going with that song and find the beautiful black and white images. And I wanted to honor all the actors in Twilight because they were all unknown. So I wanted to be sure to put their name over their face so they would, get some credit and, get out there in the world and have a beautiful career and stuff. So
Yeah.
it all kind of came together in like 1 second,
Well, I think you nailed that. So I got two more quick questions for you. You have a very fascinating career. Like you have stuff, like you directed like I know an episode of Head on Wheels. I'm sad we don't have the time to get into Lord's Dogtown. I love that movie, by the way. I think that movie's great. How are you picking your projects as far as like what's inspiring you to get behind the camera at this point?
Well, it's wild because, you have your own passion projects that you try so hard to get made, like 13, which I wrote with Nikki and all that. And sometimes you can get them made. And sometimes you could work 3 years and they don't happen. The magical green light process, So sometimes people send you a script and you're like, could I love this? Could I fall in love with this? Could I do something with it? Can I make it good? Can I contribute to this? And I do have a lot of different things. I take the challenge, I challenge myself. Let's do the Guillermo del Toro thing, the horror fantasy thing. Let's try a wild, wacky comedy, Mafia Mama, Shooting in Rome. Let's try a very personal story like this, an intimate family drama. I mean, it challenges me.
Yeah.
Miss Bala, action, crazy, stuff, shooting in Tijuana, I mean, I guess I just want to be challenged and try to find like human connections in my film. So can I find those kind of human relationships and feel them and bring them to life.
So with that said, that leads me to my last question. If you were told tomorrow, blank check, whatever, like whatever you want to make, like, you know, studios got you. What is that passion project for you? What is that project that you're starting tomorrow?
Oh my God. Well, I do have a few that I hope are going to happen, but one that I have always loved is called the Monkey Wrench Gang. And it's about eco activists and it's about saving the world. It's about four really wild characters based on a book that are really trying to change the world, but they're hilarious, fun, outrageous, messed up, and it's beautiful. It's out in the desert. In kind of the Grand Canyon. We've got the Grand Canyon rafting trip, and many people like Sean Penn, Robert Redford, Dennis Hopper have loved this book and have tried to get it
Oh,
made. For years. People have tried to get this made, and that's something that I love. That book,
okay.
Monkey.
Uh,
Yeah.
with that said, Catherine, I cannot seriously express enough. I'm a fan. Thank you so much for making the time to speak with me today. Again, thank you. Means the absolute world to me. Can you please tell people where they can watch this film, where they can find you, social media, all that fun stuff?
Yeah, well, I think I'm just on the normal, Catherine Hardwicke, Instagram, that kind of thing. And then the movie is coming out, and I believe it's in quite a few theaters, almost like 80 or 100 theaters, opening this weekend. And then, of course, following that, in the typical month or so later, you'll be able to buy it. So I hope you guys online, but hopefully you guys will see the beautiful performances that Kate Beckinsale, Brian Cox, Chris Convery, Ernie Hudson, John Huertas, and Tyson Ritter did in this movie. They're all super cool.
They really are. And yeah, Ernie Hudson, oh my God, I was so happy when I saw him in this. I was like, oh my gosh, yes, like that was a wonderful surprise. So thanks for that as well.
That's such a big heart. You just gotta love that guy, And look at him; he's so fit. He's like a badass, man.
I know I was like him boxing. I was like, okay, I'm like, this is cool. I was not expecting this. Not on my bingo card for 2023, but I love that. But
And Brian Cox does his fighting too. I mean, he's a badass too.
yeah, I wouldn't want to mess with either of them, regardless. Catherine, again, take care of yourself. Thank you so much for taking the time. Can't wait to see what you do next. And yeah, I hope this does well. Thanks again for talking with me.
Thank you.
Take
Great.
care.
A lot of fun.
Bye bye.
Goodbye.